only a handful of folks with us. I am Lauren with MtMv Voices, and on the other end we have a TL with the Up. If you haven't checked out Get on the Up or her Instagram page, their Instagram page, please go ahead and do so. A lot of really good information and resources and support. Today I'm with TL, and she is going to be talking about survivor benefits, truth, and vulnerability, an understanding of how sexual assault survivors sharing our experiences with others can be healing and valuable. And this is part of the Me Too Many Voices and Friends series for the community by the community. And I am grateful for you all being here. So TL, I will kick it over to you for right now.
Hi, Lauren. Thanks for having me today. I'm super excited to be here. I want to share with everyone. I'm excited for all of you to be here as well. I'm just sharing. I apologize for not showing my face, and that's for very real reasons. As the owner and founder of the Up, which is an anonymous safe space for sexual assault survivors to connect and just learn from one another in order to better navigate the daily life after assault. I created that space because I myself am a rape survivor, and in trying to navigate life, I found it to be a little difficult. I found it to be a little challenging, feeling that I was alone in this space. So that's why I created the Up. As a rape survivor, my rape happened at the end of 2018, so I'm still pretty new to this journey. And with that, the person who raped me has been arrested. He has been indicted on felony charges, but he has been out on bail. And in doing so, I still am being stalked on social media because social media is not a protected space in existing laws. Because of the pending trial, because of safety concerns, I do not show my face in connection with my work or really give my full name. And that's just to protect myself, the people that I work with until we can get to trial and hopefully get him behind bars. So that's why you guys don't see my face on today's live. I hope that's okay for everyone. I know that it's a little difficult. I would love to show my face and connect with you. But again, it's just for safety concerns and because of that trial that I just cannot share my face at this time. And I hope that's okay. So for today's talk about the journey and being vulnerable and telling our truths, it's really helpful in survivorship to be able to connect with people, to be able to say, this is what has happened to me, to be open and to start that healing process as soon as possible. I will tell you that after being sexually assaulted, of course, dealing with the trauma, um, dealing with having to get myself to an emergency room, there is the acceptance that comes into it of I'm now a person who's been victimized by sexual assault. And I had to learn to accept that truth. That's one of the biggest hurdles for us as survivors is this has happened to me. We don't think, hey, I'm the person that this can happen to or would happen to. This isn't my life of, because of our own prejudices and biases that I didn't think that this could ever happen to me. Um, and that's where a lot of this came from. To own it, I had to learn my story, right? And that was the biggest part of the survivorship journey for me. Of once I was able to start being honest with myself, then it was helpful to be honest with other people, right? As we know, a vast majority of sexual assaults are perpetrated by people that we know. And I knew my person, right? I've known him since I was a little kid and we came up together. So what were people going to think of me saying that he did this to me? So that made it tough to be honest with people. That made it tough to talk about it. I didn't know how they would react. How would they see me? How would I see myself based upon how they saw me? And that was the biggest hurdle. And where honesty comes into play is, again, I have to accept my truth. I have to be able to speak my truth. and allow other people to understand those things, to accept those things. I had to have faith that they wouldn't see me any differently. I had to have faith that they wouldn't judge me or reject me. And there's a lot of fear. I know a lot of survivors are scared of, if I start telling people, will they believe me? Will I be alone? As we know as survivors that, you can get attacked, especially by the people that you've outed them. You've told the truth of, this person did this, they're capable of it. How do we do that? How do we get through that? I'm not sure if anyone else has had that fear of telling their truth and being vulnerable in that space and putting themselves out there, of what do we do with that? And that was the biggest part of my struggle. That was the biggest part of my journey, of how do I get through that? And that made it tough. That until I could really talk about it, until I could be vulnerable, I wasn't moving forward in my own healing from the sexual assault. And that's one of the biggest milestones. They say your first milestone is acceptance. Um, the first milestone is aligning myself and how I perceive myself with that of who gets sexually assaulted. Um, whether we grow up being explicitly told, these are the types of people this happens to, you need to be a good girl, or you need to be a good boy, or you need to be a good person, and it doesn't happen to you, or we learn it through media. Somewhere in us is ingrained the thought of, we're culpable, we have some ownership, and this happens to a certain type of person. So I had to unlearn that. And in being honest with myself and accepting it, being honest with other people, it made it easier to unlearn those biases and prejudices and accept the fact that sexual assault can happen to anyone. Sexual assault can be perpetrated by anyone. Um, this crime does not discriminate. Um, Again, it doesn't discriminate against anyone, right? No matter your age, your background, your economic situation, your education, it can happen to anyone. And once I got to that point, it became easier and easier to be honest and be vulnerable with people. Those of us who are traumatized, when we go out, I know for me, it was tough to be around people. Going to the grocery store was so hard because there were so many people. It was so much movement. I didn't like being touched. So if someone bumped into me, that was a trigger. If someone looked at me too long, that was a trigger. Um, it was really hard. And I had to take a moment and say, this has happened to me. I can't undo this trauma. I have to accept it and then start really digging in to do the work, right? We think doing the work is about really waking up and still moving forward and maybe tucking that pain behind us and not talking about it. But that's not really doing the work of really getting on the path of wellness from sexual assault, right? Doing the work is admitting that it happened. It's talking about it. It's acknowledging our feelings. It's letting people in. It's it's having all of those emotions and sitting down and taking a moment. All of those things that no one really teaches you to do or helps you to do, and you feel selfish or wrong for needing to cry, or in a panic attack, laying on the floor and just doing nothing. And that's exactly what we have a right to do, what we should be doing in order to get to a place of being able to manage the trauma and all of the pain and the sadness and the depression and the anxiety and the not sleeping and all of the tears. I've cried so much I didn't think the human body held that much water, and the tears keep coming. So the honesty and opening up, it allows for all of those things to happen, whether it's in the therapist's office, um, whether it's with friends and family, whether it's by ourselves. They say the moment in recovery, and what I learned from my therapist is, if you can sit alone with your feelings and not necessarily be okay in the sense of not crying or not being upset, but if you can just have those feelings and process through them, you're in a better place of moving forward. But if we can't be alone, if we can't allow ourselves to have the feelings, then we're not really moving in a direction of health and wellness. um it's tough. you know I see, yeah, not sleeping, it's a lot. 1:30 a.m. here, I had all of that. you know I had the not sleeping. I had the not eating. It got to the point where I had to set reminders in my cell phone of drink water, eat, go to the bathroom, lay down, because my mind, I just couldn't handle it. Um, and that's really the idea of where the up came from, that through all of that madness, through all of the sadness, through all of the trauma, um, I needed a space, right? When I was able to tell friends and family what happened to me, they were supportive and so welcoming. And they believed me, and they kept asking, what do you need? But I didn't know what I needed. And then when I needed it, nobody was available, right? When you're up at 2 a.m. and your brain is racing and you're crying and you have pain in your body, I needed someone to reach out to who understood or would listen to me. And I didn't have that, right? So being a woman in tech, in my mind was, how do I get access to people at certain times and connect with people in a way that's easy, a way that I can visibly see that it's real? Um, and that's how the up came about, in a very indirect way. You know, I never intended to create an app. I started out on Instagram, actually just screaming into a void of how upset I was, and I can't believe this is my life, and questions I had and things that I was learning in therapy. And so many beautiful people just organically came to this space, right? Which is the up Instagram. And people were asking me questions, and I'm like, hell, I don't know. And I'm asking people questions, and they're like, I don't know. And it was just independent people doing research and then coming together and answering questions. And I thought, okay. And I just kind of fumbled my way into the app itself, right? So the advocacy work came from my situation, right, of being a survivor and realizing that even though this horrible thing has happened to me, I still had some privilege with my resources to be able to get to therapy and to have a supportive family and reach out to people in my network to help me. And I realized a lot of people don't have that. A lot of people don't have family to call. A lot of people can't afford therapy. A lot of people don't know where to go and what resources to get. In building the community, was, I need to create that, right? So that's where we are with the up right now. It's just people connecting and sharing what's happening to them in their day-to-day survivorship journey, and being able to get that love and that outreach and support from other people saying, you know what, I empathize with this. Or maybe I can't empathize, but I sympathize with it, and I'm just sending you love, right? And that's the beautiful thing about the app right now. And of course, it's going to evolve and grow over time, but right now it's just an outreach, an outlet for people to connect with. And it allows them to be honest of, this happened to me and here's my truth, and to see that truth and believe that truth and connect with it, right? So that was a part, for me, the first step of being honest with myself and others. And it was tough, because I still had to go to work. I work in tech, I'm in leadership in tech, and there's not many women in that space. So I deal with my survivorship journey, I deal with everyday life, I deal with work and all of the things that come with it. And it's tough. It's tough to have the emotional real estate of, can I handle stress today? Um, can I handle any misogyny or anything else today? Right? I need to make space. I need to give myself space to be able to handle that. So again, being honest, I can create space for myself. I can just give myself the space in the room that I need. And I want to encourage other people, you know, admit that this has happened to you. Talk to people. And it's okay if people say, you know what, I can't handle this, whether they say it nicely or if they don't say it nicely at all, but at least they've given you their truth, and you know that maybe that's not an avenue to pursue when getting support and in getting connection. And that's okay, right? Um, and in getting support is a two-way street. Again, we have to be honest with other people and allow them to be honest with us. And with me communicating with some of my friends and family, it's unfortunate, but they didn't have the resources to be a support for me. And it was sad, and it was hard, and it was devastating, but it was their truth, right? I've been fortunate in my space to not have anyone say, I don't believe you, right? People believe me. Um, but they didn't have the skills to help me, right? I found out in being honest and allowing people to be honest with me that some of the closest people in my life, they're also survivors of sexual assault, and I had no idea. Um, some of these people never told anyone. They never said this happened to me. They just tucked this secret away their whole lives, and they've been living with it. And I'm not sure how they do that, you know? I'm not sure how that works for them. So that's been pretty interesting, and I'm just curious if if we have any people who just kind of haven't communicated that or shared that, or if that's been tough for people. I'm always interested to know, how are people comfortable sharing their story.
Feel free to chime in the comments.
Yeah, I don't want this to be me just kind of talking and taking up space. Just I'm interested in, people's thoughts and their experiences, and it's been tough, over my time. um I've had to learn a lot. I've had to grow a lot. I've had to, oh wow, when I was going through this, your mom told you and your sister what happened to her when she was a teen, and it was a family member, right? So we have our parents who are going through their trauma, and they're parenting us the best way they know how. um and it's tough because we see our parents as superheroes, right? We don't think that anything has happened to them. I see this in the Latino community. A lot of people live in silence. Yeah, cultural issues as well, right? Particularly people of color. What happens in our community stays in our community, right? Um, Frequent to have the cases in families, absolutely. A lot of people that I'm connecting with on the up, it's family members who attack them. I will tell you, it was a family member who attacked me. Never would have thought in a million years. Yep, brothers, grandfathers, cousins. It's really sad. Absolutely. And, again, when we talk about programming in the media, people tell you to be careful of the boogeyman, right? They tell you to be careful of strangers. They tell you to not drink and to not dress a certain way and to not be alone and to not be out late. But no one's talking about that danger within your four walls. No one's talking about the danger at a family reunion, right? And that's where the real danger sits. It's the people who know us, it's the people who study us, um, it's the people who have the easiest access to us that perpetrate this crime. And it's a lot of things about sexual assault that we have to learn, but a lot of things that we also have to unlearn as well. It's in the middle of legal case with my rape, and my mother told me, good luck getting any male found of rape. Yep. And that's difficult when you're fighting such a hard battle to not get the support you need. And I don't see the name of who wrote that, but I feel for you, and my heart is definitely with you, and I get it. I understand. And again, coming from a place of honesty, it's being honest that people don't know, right? They're scared. They're frightened. They have a trauma that maybe they haven't told us about, and because they didn't get justice or no one provided them the space to have their feelings, they don't know how to give us space, right? That's what I'm learning. Um, and it's hard. I will tell you, within my family and some of my biggest supporters, they don't know what to do or what to say. They want to fight with me, but they don't know how to fight. They get discouraged, or they're watching the news, and when you hear the low stats of people getting convicted of rape, they become discouraged, right? So it's carrying that. Like, I carry myself, I carry my trauma, I carry my everyday life on top of their fears, their concerns, and that's hard. And they project that. I used to get upset, and I used to have these moments and say, you know what, you're not being nice, you're not being kind, you're not being supportive. And I would project onto them, and it's this big circle, to a point where my family and I, we had to go to therapy together. And it was in therapy that I realized that the people who are supporting us, they also need help. They need real help. And it's about us as survivors, but the people who are supporting us are also called secondary survivors. They need help as well. It was difficult to continue to work with the person and keep the secret from the kids we worked with. Absolutely. I couldn't imagine what that must have been like to be violated, and then for survival needs to still be with, in the presence of the person who perpetrated you, right? If we're going to survive, we have to set boundaries. And we have to have expectations, and that means letting go of people, even the people who attacked us. And that's hard, that's really hard. And in my journey, I had to do that as well. The person who raped me, we were super close. We were like almost like best friends. And I had to let that go, and I had to mourn that relationship. I had to mourn the loss of who I thought he was versus who he actually was. And that was tough. Um, in that, I also had to, forgive myself for not being able to see it. As a lot of people are like, why didn't I see it? Why didn't I know? How come, this happened? I had to stop taking ownership um, for that. And I had to realize that people who perpetrate sexual crimes, they own 100% of it. And that was one of the hardest lessons to learn. Um, People will show you what they want to show you. They will show you the side of themselves that they feel like you want to see so they can get what they want from you. And there was no way we probably could have seen that they had this in them. There was no way that we probably could have ever thought about it. I'm sure 100% of us, if we knew someone was capable of something like this, we wouldn't have anything to do with them. So there's no way we could have known, right? There's no way we could have known. And if that's the biggest takeaway that people get from this, then please let that be it. That if you're honest with yourself, if you're honest with other people, you can admit, I had nothing to do with this. This person made this decision all the way on their own, right? Um, I had to learn that your body has a trauma brain, and that trauma brain owns how you handle certain dangers, right? It will determine if you're going to fight, if you're going to run, which is flight, if you're going to freeze, or if you're going to fawn. Happen to them. No one decides to say, okay, I can fight you, but I'm not going to, right? Your mind assesses that situation, and it makes the best decision so you can get away from it alive. And that was one of the greatest learnings, or the greatest teachings that I got throughout my whole process. Was there's search situations that I can't control, that biologically our body makes the decision for us. And learning that and being able to share that with people, that's been really helpful, right? Or disassociate, absolutely. um so it was really being honest, and in going through therapy, we learned those things, we talked about those things. um yep, we talked about those things, so then my family could better help me. They could let go of some of their biases. They could learn what's some of the appropriate questions to ask, what are the inappropriate questions to ask. It was happily, DeMarie, thank you. I appreciate that. It was tough. And what are the boundaries, right? So the other piece of my journey is learning boundaries. It was, if I'm honest with myself and I'm honest with other people, I can share my needs with them. But I could also say, here's my hard boundary. Don't ask me what happened to me in my assault. Do not ask me any details, because we are litigating against my rapist right now. And for people who've joined, I'm not showing my face because I am a rape survivor. We are litigating against the person who raped me. So I'm not showing my face for safety concerns that, social media is not a safe space. It's not protected under the current laws. So he has been checking out what I've been doing on my personal pages online, which is why I personally am no longer on social media. So I'm not attaching my name and my face to social media just so I can continue my advocacy work and just protect other people who are utilizing the resources, and friends and family. But also just don't ask me questions. Don't, you know, for those boundaries of, I need safety. I need to be okay. Give me time and space to talk about what I'm comfortable sharing. And it was tough for some people because they want to know everything. They're just as angry as I was. Um, it's tough. So all of that stuff happens in the journey. And it's all these things that no one really talks to us about in survivorship, right? We hear um, people say, this happened to me, and then that's it, right? We hear, we think about Harvey Weinstein and all those people that he violated, and it just, it stops there. No one's talking about the day-to-day struggles of brushing your teeth can be hard, right? Taking a shower can be hard. Going to the grocery store can be hard. Um, it's tough. And again, you know, you still love your boyfriend, right? You still may think, oh, I miss this person or this was my friend. Um, you know, so you should talk to him. I would get that a lot. How do you want me to talk to someone who hurt me? Exactly, right? This isn't something that you can fix with a simple conversation, right? Sylvia, nobody stole $5 from your purse. It's not that simple. This is a real violation. Um, and you don't have to talk to that person, right? You don't have to be around that person if you can help it. I understand that some of us are violated by people we work with, by people who have certain control over our finances, and it's a matter of survival, right? You may have to continue to engage with that person until you can get away with them, and it's okay. It's okay. You know, um, it's different. And you know, again, part of my work with the Up is creating a safe space for people to connect. So we can be empowered. So we can talk to other people and see how they're handling things to help us handle the struggles that we're having, right? Um, and also to educate people who don't know any better, right? Our survivor supporters of, I may need to continue to be in this space until I can get out of it, or here are the things you're doing that aren't helpful. So when I get back to setting boundaries, I can say to maybe a friend of mine of, when I'm upset and I'm crying, it's not helpful for you to tell me to calm down. No one has ever calmed down by saying calm down. No one stops crying because you say stop crying, right? So I had to educate them of, here's what's helpful and here's what's not helpful. And Lauren, I've actually taken things off of your page and sent it to people to be like, look, read this. Let's work through it, right? Um, and that's where it is. And I think, you know, being vulnerable and telling our truths, it helps us to better set those boundaries of, here's what I need, here's what's going on, you know. And that's where this journey is. And I will say it's been really tough. It's been really hard. There have been days where I didn't think I was going to make it, right? I will say people who cut or, you know, drink or do drugs, I have a different level of empathy for them now. That you can go through something so horrible in life that you just, it's too tough to cope on your own, especially if you don't have the right support system, right? So that's where all of this has come from. That's where my efforts with the Up came from. It was, how do we support people who need support any time of day as they navigate this thing called life after um after sexual assault, that this is something that can stick with us for the rest of our lives. It can impact our relationships. Like Little Bo Peach, I see you. How can I explain my past trauma to my new relationship? I don't want to say details, but sometimes I go off on my new partner because I'm scared. I will tell you, I got assaulted in 2018 and I'm still too scared to even think about a relationship. You know, a man said hello to me at the gas station and I broke down and cried. Like, this struggle is very real. Um, and he thought he did something wrong or I was hurt, and he wanted to be kind, and I was like, don't touch me, don't get close to me, don't, like, please get in your car and drive on, right? It's in that space of, I know I'm not healed. And so, Little Bo Peach, I wish I could answer your question. I'm not equipped to do it. Lauren, you're a trained advocate. I didn't know if you had an answer for that.
I think that what you want to share with your new partner is entirely up to you, and you get to decide how much or how little you want to share. And maybe that looks like just sharing what we'll call headlines only, you know, kind of brief, concise, you know, about your trauma, and see how they react to that, and see how you react, and see how you feel with sharing that. And if it was a release and you are finding the kind of support that you so much deserve, and are looking for, then maybe consider sharing some more. But I also do think that your trauma is a big part of you. It's not the only part of you. And that if you want to be able to share with your partner, understandably, then you have every right to, and you have every right to have support reciprocated and them try to figure out the best way to help support you. Um, and whether that's writing them a letter or sitting them down, having a conversation, think about what would be the most helpful for you, because it's all about you and your safety.
Yeah, safety is key. Um, I couldn't even imagine that now of I'm still healing, I'm still working through it. I couldn't imagine that. Um,
Um,
that
Technology. It happens. I know what you were talking about answering your question. What's the procedure in the USA to go to court? Is there something
yeah,
to do after the abuse to secure evidence? We're unclear
I will
clear about the
say
legal process.
so. I will say for myself, it's about getting to an emergency facility as soon as possible. As soon as you realize that something has happened to you, that you get to a doctor. They will do blood work. They will also do a SANE test, which is a pelvic exam, a groin exam for men. Or what's appropriate for your gender identity. I will say that. And then they will collect evidence. From there, the police, because of course you go to emergency facility where they can do the exam, and you can call the police. You can call the police first and then go to a medical place, or you can go to a medical place then call the police. For me, I went to a medical facility, and they did all of the exams, they did all of the tests, and then the police, and of course they took my clothes and everything else. Through there, the police are going to do an investigation, and it's really a series of what I call tolls in the process. It's not like what you see on TV where someone goes to the police and then they take it and do all this effort and then you go to court. It unfortunately is not that, right? Um, it's it's once you get the evidence and the police take it on, they do an investigation. They will determine whether or not it's enough there for them to continue an investigation. For me, they had enough evidence to determine that they would move further and then go through with an arrest. Once the person who raped me was arrested, my file was sent to the district attorney's office. While it was sent to the DA's office, the person who raped me was able to bail out of jail. Despite the evidence, despite what they had, he was able um, to go free and await next steps. From there, the district attorney is going to take the case. They're going to look at all of the evidence. Um, I had a phone call with them. They asked me some questions. They went back and did some more research. And then from there, they make a decision on whether or not they feel like they have enough to take it to court, right? The DA's goal is to win. And if they feel like they have enough there beyond a shadow of a doubt, they're going to take it. If they don't, they will not take your case. And that arrest kind of goes away and you move on with your life and you just figure out how to navigate. An option is civil court, right? Against the person who assaulted you. For me, the DA decided to take my case. From there, there's a couple options. You can set a court date and they can just go to trial. For me, they went through a grand jury process of indictment. So the person who attacked me was indicted. A jury of his peers felt like there was enough evidence beyond a shadow of a doubt that he did this. So with that, um, we now wait for a trial, for another trial, a criminal trial to figure out, right? It wasn't so easy as to set a date because in the United States, of course, innocent until proven guilty. So he has a lot of rights. He has a lot of options. He can delay, he can ask for additional information, and he's definitely doing that, right? Um, so it's, until he exhausts all of his options and all of his rights, we can't set a court date. And that's where we are right now. And for people who have joined a little later, my name is TL. I'm the founder and owner of the UP, the anonymous social network where sexual assault survivors can connect. And because he is out, because we're waiting for trial, um, he is still stalking my social media, which is why we're no longer on social media anymore. And that's why I'm not showing my face or, in connection with the up. And it's just for protection of myself and just making sure I can still do my work and be protected. So those are the options, or that's the steps. It's definitely a different tolls. Like, first, the police decide whether or not they have enough to move forward with a full investigation, and then they can determine whether or not to arrest. Then it goes to the DA. The DA can determine whether or not they have enough for a case, and then you move forward of, can you get to trial? So it's not smooth, it's not easy, and that's really the process here in the United States. Regardless of your state, there's small nuances, there's small pieces of information, or facts, or actions that each state has to do, and they vary. But overall, it's whether or not there's enough evidence to move forward. So for people who were drugged, and they didn't figure out something happened for a period of time, they may have already brushed their teeth or taken a shower. It's tough, right? Um, for people, where alcohol was involved, it's tough because, you know, you already have the belief of no one's going to believe me. Um, so you have that thought, you have that shame. So it's hard. And I understand now, being in this process, of why the conviction rates are so low. I get it. So through all of this, through my journey, through, learning to be honest, learning to set boundaries, maintain privacy, because that's really important. The other side of this is understanding who's my support community, right? We think everyone's going to jump up and be so excited. And some people want to support us, they just don't know how. They're not equipped to do it. And it's tough. Again, people in my life have said, yep, I'm a survivor as well. I've never told anyone. I have someone super close to me, she's a survivor, and she told me, I just pretend that it never happened and I move on. And she said, there's moments in my life where something reminds me of it, and she works through it. And I don't know how. I don't know how to do that. For me, I was busting at the seams after this horrible thing happened to me. I couldn't keep it in. I couldn't function. I couldn't believe it, you know? So telling my truth has gotten me to a place of being able to connect with other survivors. It's nice to connect with people who get it, who understand. I don't have to explain so much to them. Um, it's like we talk and navigate around each other, and it's just comfortable. Um, Sharing my truth has gotten me to really look at different aspects of survivorship and be able to function a little better. Every day is still tough. I still have days where I cry. I still have days where I have panic attacks and really bad anxiety. Um, Focus is very difficult. After this, they say losing time, that's a very real thing. Like, 5 hours has gone by and I'm still sitting in my chair, and it's, how do we do this? How did this happen? So it's all of those things. But if we can start to be vulnerable, right, and let other people in, um, if we can say we are survivors, it definitely opens the door to deeper connections, right? Um, and that gets us to a space of really learning and understanding our trauma differently, healing differently. Um, Being able to do that is what got me to founding the Up and working in advocacy and connecting with other people and having a better survivorship journey than I think what I would have had if I said nothing and tried to figure this out on my own. Because there's so much that we don't know.
How vulnerable you are and how eloquent you are. Thank you very much, TL. It is probably time for us to start wrapping it up. So I thought we'd see if we had any other questions. Um, I see someone just popped in. It's so important to highlight your decision to protect you on social media. Victims are judged by their postings in daily life. In Italy, the denim defense was used to protect an abuser. Um, absolutely.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. That's very real. And the sad thing is that as a survivor seeking justice, we have to live in the shadows and be more careful. And it's almost like the predator has more rights than we do right now, unfortunately. Fortunately. So, yeah.
Thank you so much for doing all the work that you do. I know that you help so many people, including me. Um, it's really great to be part of this community with you.
Thank you so much for having me and letting me kind of share the highlights of what it's like and share, about the up. And for other people who are survivors and they want a safe space to kind of connect and share about their daily life, definitely visit us at getontheup.com. Learn about the company, download the app, and start connecting with survivors. And Lauren, your work inspires me as well. So thank you for this.
Thank you. Thank you. We have one comment that just came in. I was shamed because my ex is 15 years older than me and I should have known better. Nope,
No,
you
ma'am.
should
No,
have known better, or they should have known better.
they
It's not your fault. It's not your responsibility.
not at all.
And we, both TL and myself and the op and Me Too Many Voices will be here to keep reminding you. So, yeah, keep reaching out and we'll talk to you soon.
All right.
Thank you all
Bye.
for being here.